Newsfirst, face to face with Charlene Benedict.
Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Face to Face. Joining us this evening on Face to Face is the former chairman of the Valiga Council, Rehan Jayawickreme. A very good evening, Rehan, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Sharon. How are you doing?
Rehan, now, of course, you're a young politician. You've had your fair share of problems within the United National Party. Hopefully things are better for you now at the SJB. An election is around the corner, and there are rumors, at least, that several SJB members are trying to or preparing to go back to the United National Party. There was even an open invitation extended by the United National Party to several members, specifically naming them. So based on what's happening inside your party right now, is there a risk as such? Are these rumors just rumors, or is there more to it?
The UMP has been floating this idea of people crossing over for the longest possible time, ever since President Wickremesinghe took over the government. They've been constantly saying that lots of our people are going to be crossing over. So I can assure you that when these latest crossover talks were happening, they're talking about 4 members in particular. I think it's Professor Harsha De Silva, Iran Vikramaratne, Mrs. Athukorala, and Kabir Hashim. I can tell you point blank, from what I know as of now, because I've spoken to most of them. I actually tweeted something as well. There is absolutely no chance that the UMP are going to get these people, because they are not going to leave. And I don't know if you remember, but just yesterday, Harsha De Silva and Iran Vikramaratne both gave a statement on the SJB media conference that this government will last only for 6 months. So I've spoken to Professor Harsha personally, and yes, there are issues. There are certain issues within not just any party, but even in a marriage, you get problems. But it doesn't mean that every single time you have a marital problem that you end up going for a divorce. So just like that, just like any other political party, we have our disagreements. But Harsha De Silva will be the person in charge of the economy. Sajith Premadasa, our leader, has already said that Harsha will be the finance minister. And that's all that people should be concerned about, that we have a good team, and our team is going to govern the country in a little less than 6 months.
So your confidence, of course, in securing government power during any other time in Sri Lanka would have been understandable, but this time around everything is unprecedented. Usually in Sri Lanka what we would see is a two-way battle, a battle between 2 candidates. But this time around, there appears to be a third candidate also coming into the fray. At least the candidates that have been announced now openly. We have, of course, Sajith Premadasa from the Samagi Jana Balavekya. We have Ranil Wickremesinghe as the current president, who is contesting for a rerun. And also, Kumar Dissanayake has entered the fray. And their point of view is that for 75 years, the SJB, or the UNP and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, and the parties that broke away, branched out, have been running Sri Lanka and really failing at it. And now it's time for a fresh change, a complete turnover of the page, and not just, changing heads among the parties. So what would your response be to that?
It's an absolute joke, no. Now, I'm very happy that you asked me this question. I was actually hoping that someone would ask me this when I'm on TV. If you look at history, 1994 was when the JVP fielded their first presidential candidate, Nihal Galapatti. This was the party that then coined the famous phrase, Vihara Mahadeviya, to Madam Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga. I have nothing personally against her, but what I'm saying is they went to the extent of not only supporting her, but also calling her Vihara Mahadevi. That was a tagline coined by the JVP. Now, that was that election. In 2001, Kumar Dissanayake, the current JVP leader, accepted 4 ministries under a few ministries under the CBK regime. A couple of more of their cadre also accepted ministries. One funny thing that Kumar Dissanayake said back then was that before he's done with his ministry, he is going to build 1,000 lakes. වැව් 1000ක් හදනවා in Sinhala. Couldn't even make 10 and left that ministry.
But they resigned.
They resigned. They resigned because obviously when you say you're going to make 1,000 and when you can't even make 10, the best thing to do is to resign. And they resigned now. The funny thing was, In 1994, the very same JVP said that the reason that they are supporting Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga was because she was going to abolish the executive presidency. Now, fast forward to 2001, when they accepted cabinet portfolios under CBK, did CBK abolish the executive presidency? So what was bad in 1994 was not bad for them to accept ministries in 2001.
But of course, we need to take all of this in the context that there was a war ongoing at the time. There were bombs, even the president was bombed, was injured. Those might have played some part in it.
I don't disagree that it would have been a part, that there would have been a part played in it. But what I'm saying is when you use the narrative saying unut ekai, you have to first look in the mirror and say apit ekada. Because like I said, in now 2001 they joined CBK, then they left that government. Then again in 2005 they supported the bid of President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Right? They supported his bid to become the president. Now fast forward to 2010, they support General Sarath Fonseca to be the president representing the UMP. Then again in 2015, the very same JVP supported Maithripala Sirisena. So what I'm trying to say here is they have to also accept that out of the 76 years they are talking about, the 30-year corruption rampage was supported by them. Because we all know that it was post-2005 that the most amount of corruption happened in this country. So they were part and parcel of that. And did you know, Shalan, that when Anukumara Dissanayake handed over anti-corruption files, there was one file that was missing in those files. What do you think that file was? That file was a tsunami file. And he didn't bring it up because they knew that they were part and parcel of this whole thing. And another interesting thing is, what did they do now? They now showcased the NPP the same way that the SLPP showcased Viatmaga, right? But have you ever seen on your shows, you've been on many shows, you've conducted many shows, I've seen a lot of your shows, have you ever seen NPP members and JVP members on the same side? You'll either always get the NPP or you'll get the JVP. You'll never get Harini Amarasuriya and or Rai or Chaturanga, no, you'll never get Harini or Chaturanga sitting on the same side as Rai, for example. Or you'll never get Tilvin Silva sitting on the same side as Harini Amarasuriya. Why do you think that is? That's because their ideologies are totally different.
But then you yourself said that within a party sometimes there could be disagreements, there could be variety of thoughts. Are they not
disagreements for me are general disagreements regarding activities of the party and not regarding the complete ideological aspect of the party. But what the NPP speak about and what the JVP speak about are completely two different things. Now, Sharan, when you look at, for example, Tilvin Silva, when he is interviewed, when he is asked, is there a difference between the NPP and JVP? He says, yes, he says there is absolutely no difference. They have the same ideologies as us. But when you interview someone from the NPP, the NPP says, no, we are a more progressive version of the JVP. So this is basically hoodwinking the public. But this time around, the public don't have many chances to waste. They wasted it once on Gotabaya Rajapaksa. And if they waste it on Anukumara Dissanayake, we can kiss the IMF program goodbye. We can kiss the debt restructuring goodbye. It's going to be a Marxist, Leninist type governance that is going to be in Sri Lanka. And that's the scary part. That is very, very, very scary, and that is something that all Sri Lankans should realize. You may have your disagreements with Sajith Premadasa as a leader, you may have your disagreements with the SJB, with particular SJB members, but we have the best team and the best leader, and we have a proven leader. We have a leader who has represented Hambantota district from the year 2000. He is already almost 25 years into his job. He's already run for president once. So, it's a kind appeal that I make to all Sri Lankans. Do not make the same mistake you made before. This is the first, you can't call it the first, but this is the last chance that you will get to really set our country 10 steps forward. Because if the JVP come in, we are looking at about 1,000 steps back.
But calls these days are for do not vote for individuals, vote for the policies, vote for the plan that they have for the country. And while certain portions of the economic plan, we have the SJB putting out their economic blueprint, we have certain other political parties also, including the NPP, putting out certain documentation on how they plan on managing the country in the future. So shouldn't that be the priority that people should look at? Policies, plans, what are you going to do in the future?
Absolutely. Now the SJB, we have already submitted our blueprint. We have done it in many districts. And our leader, Sajid Premadasa, has clearly mentioned what our economic outlook is. But if you ask the NPP, what is the economic outlook, what does Andukumar Dissanayake say? I can't imitate the way he speaks, I'm not going to do that. But he says, we are going to get $500 to $1,000 from our overseas cadres who will be sending money into Sri Lanka. And, this will help stabilize the economy. How is that possible? How do you get people sending that much money? Where have you ever heard of that happening?
But we've really not seen any concrete manifestos coming out, of course, for the simple reason that the presidential election has not been announced yet. So once the presidential election is announced and the manifestos are out, do you think then we will be able to see the exact plan or the real plan that each political party has for the future of Sri Lanka?
First of all, their narrative is that they believe in a team. No. So my challenge to them is, why don't your economic team argue with our economic team? Why do they have to say that they have to have Sajid Premadasa to debate Andukumar Dissanayake? That can happen during a presidential election. But get Nalinda Jayatissa and these so-called Chaturanga Besing and all these guys to come and argue with Harsha Rehan and Kabir. Why aren't they doing it? If they care so deeply about the economic policies of this country, then come for a debate. But they are diverting. They are saying, no, we want Sajid. That can wait because Sajid Premadasa, even though he has been nominated by us, he has to officially hand over his nominations as the next candidate for the country, representing us. So let's get this debate going. And your media station can host it. Throw them that challenge. They will not accept. In a million years, they will not accept. You know why? Because some of their chief economists are from the NPP. And like I told you, the NPP and JVP will never sit on a debate stage. So I'm once again challenging the so-called NPP experts, come and debate our team. Then we'll see who has the best outlook for the country. Or if Sri Lankans are going to go on the same mindset again that they used on Gotabaya Rajapaksa, saying that, you don't have to debate to run a country. Well, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa showed that very well, that, you actually need to engage with people to run a country. But this is absolute, this is what they are doing is they are capitalizing on the Aragalaya. Just the other day I saw Chaturanga Besing saying that 3 million people were involved in the Aragalaya. Now where did he get that statistic from? Where was that 3 million? Where did they come from? Then when he's asked, and this was in one of your programs that your station had, then he says out of that 2 million people are NPP. So that means all the people that went around burning houses would have been JVP or NPP. But for that he replies saying, no, those were other elements. So they want to take full credit for the Aragalaya, and at the same time they discredit the Aragalaya by throwing their own people under the bus. So, these numbers, all these fairy tales and the way we speak, Shal, and we can try and hoodwink as many people as we can. But the thing is, this is the country's future at stake. We are not going to get this opportunity ever again to make things right. And the JVP have never governed. The only time they ever governed was a small council in Tissa Maharama, where they only governed for once and they lost again. Other than that, they have never governed, not even a Maranadhara Samitiya, let alone a country or a ward, for example. So experience matters, experience counts. We have the best people for the job. So let's go for the debate. Let's talk about the economy. Then during the presidential election, your so-called candidate can argue with our candidate who has never shied away from the debate. And then let the country decide. But the country should decide based on these aspects and these aspects alone.
So all of these comments that you made regarding the NPP and their credibility and their ability to work, of course, needs to be taken against the backdrop that there is no representative from the NPP here to respond or defend. However, speaking about...
Can I interrupt you there for a minute?
Yes.
I threw an open challenge at Chaturanga Besinga and Rai to come and debate us. I threw that challenge 3 weeks ago on Twitter. And now they say they have to wait for their manifesto. What nonsense. You don't have to have a manifesto to talk about common sense. No, it's not like Chaturanga or Rai is going to be the presidential candidate. No. So to start off with, at least accept little old me's challenge. You know, at least accept that challenge. They can't even accept that challenge. So you can see how they're going to run a country.
Well, I see the SJB throwing challenges mainly to the NPP, and it almost seems as if all other political parties are taking a little bit of a back seat. Do you think that this time around the SJB's biggest challenge or biggest opposition at the election is the NPP?
Now, why do you think, I tell this to a lot of people, why do you think we talk about the NPP and why do you think the NPP talks about us? It's because after doing grassroots politics and after knowing the party mechanisms and the people's heartbeat, we have now understood that our main competitor is the NPP and kudos to them. They are our main competitor. The reason we don't throw these challenges at the UNP is because the UNP approval ratings are at an all-time low. The Alipohottu combination ratings are at an all-time low. So who else are we going to invite for a debate? It has to be the NPP. But what are we going to do if the NPP doesn't accept? Then what do we do? I mean, so yes, the NPP is our main challenge. But I firmly believe the people of this country are not stupid. They were stupid at a time. But I don't think they have repeat stupidity levels high enough to elect the NPP. And if you look at the substance of which I spoke about, is there anything that I said that was mudslinging? Now, even if
I believe that's a very subjective, that question warrants a subjective answer. Some people would see it as mudslinging, others would not.
I spoke facts, no. I said 1994 who they supported. I said 2001 they accepted ministries, no. So I said they accepted ministries. 2005 they supported Mahinda Rajapaksa, no. So I said that. 2010 they openly supported Maithripala Sirisena, no. I said that. In 2050, once again 2010, 2015.
15 they really didn't openly support.
Of course they supported Maithripala Sirisena.
They just said do not vote.
They were part and parcel of that anti-corruption unit which was set up inside the temple trees.
You were part of the government too.
Definitely not. I only got elected in 2018. I have absolutely no hand in that government.
You were a member of the UNP at the time.
No, I only assumed membership of the United National Party 1 week before my local government election.
Okay.
So thank the Lord that I'm free of all these sins.
So moving forward, really, the United National Party has, besides these three main political parties, of course, there are several other candidates who are popping up. We saw an increase in the number of candidates in the previous presidential election as well. I believe that's one of the largest number of candidates who ever contested a presidential election in Sri Lanka. This time around too, there are a few candidates popping up from here and there. You don't think they have a chance? Have
you heard of a term called too many cooks spoil the soup? So that's the same thing I can say. That's the only simple thing I say. I won't talk about any of these other candidates. Their politics doesn't interest me. Their attitude doesn't interest me. The fact that they think that just because they have money that they can become president of the country doesn't interest me. So I have absolutely zero interest in anyone else who is running other than Sajith Premadasa and Anukumar Dissanayake. Those are the only two candidates I'm worried about. Those are the only two candidates I'm concerned about. Everyone else, maybe my party members, some of them may be concerned. I really don't care about any of these other candidates.
Also, we are nearing a date that brought a lot of sorrow to many Sri Lankans, the 21st of April. 5 years now since the April 21st attack, and still no justice. The government at the time of the attack, which was the Yahapalne government, promised justice. There were presidential commissions appointed, but in the end, the fundamental rights applications that were filed subsequently, the Supreme Court held that the president himself is also to blame to a certain degree for not taking action and not performing his duties to prevent the attack alongside several other state officials. Then a new government is brought into power, the government of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who the cardinals said promised justice for the victims of the April 21st attacks. That never happened. Now again we can see various political parties, including the SJB, of course, presenting plans on how they plan on proceeding forward to bring justice to the victims of the April 21st attacks. But however, this is 5 years later, so the task is 5 times harder than it would have been when the event occurred. Do you think that political parties have begun, selling this talking point again, dangling this little carrot called justice for the victims of the April 21st attacks before Sri Lankans again?
The SJB has never been in government. The SJB is a very young political party that created history by becoming the youngest party in history to obtain as much seats as we got in 2020 under the leadership of Sajid Premadasa. So yes, some may think that this is all what you call in Sinhala Chandagundu, or these are election promises.
Okay.
But it's not. I can assure you that Sajid Premadasa is very, very, very serious about the East investigation. I will give you a document as well once we wrap up of the proposals that we have given to the Cardinal.
I think this document was spoken of before by President's Counsel Farmer Qasim.
And there's a bit of a controversy there where people say that why are we getting foreign judges involved? The reason we are getting foreign and their counter argument is, if Sajid said it was wrong for foreign judges to be involved during the war crimes investigations, why is it that he's asking for foreign investigations here? Two completely different stories, because war crimes are also, they have special UN, they are under special UN covenants, they have special UN charters for that. That's something that has to be handled delicately.
Because it's a diplomatic issue.
It's a diplomatic issue. But then what we are asking foreign investigators and judges to come and do here is to help us ascertain who the real culprits are. But that doesn't mean that the foreign judges are the ones who are going to be trying these people. There is going to be a special court. There's going to be we are going to try and introduce amendments to the penal code to sort of blend in with the special code that we are going to establish. And I can guarantee to you that if Sajid Premadasa is elected president, before the first year of his presidency, there will be a thorough and investigative court case which we will initiate against the perpetrators, against who planned it. It doesn't matter about position, it doesn't matter whose friend you are. The SJB government will definitely 100% come behind the perpetrators, and that's a given. And I'm usually careful about the words I use, but I know how desperate Sajid Premadasa is to create a form of justice that we can, give out on behalf of the remaining family members and also the people who died. And he's very, very serious about it. I mean, have no doubt in your head or anyone watching, the SJB government will not sugarcoat the Easter Sunday conspiracy, and we will bring it to light, and all it's going to take us is less than a year.
So, especially now, when you make such promises, when any political party or political movement right now makes these promises, it needs to be understood that people today demand a lot more than what people in the past did. I think that is quite evident with the election results that we've been seeing. One party is given power, a president is given power, and when he doesn't deliver, the power is moved over to another person. President Maithripala Sirisena had high expectations. He didn't deliver. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had even higher expectations. He didn't deliver. Does the SJB understand the fact that the candidate, or if by chance the SJB candidate wins the election, that he will have even higher expectations from the general public?
Many people seem to put the blame on us for the mistake they made in 2019. You can't have voted for Gotabaya Rajapaksa and then point a finger at us and say that we are responsible for this. If the people voted wisely in 2019, this problem wouldn't have happened. Right? So the SJB shouldn't be blamed for that. We only contested.
No, I'm not blaming the SJB.
I'm not talking about you, Sharan. I'm talking about the general consensus is that unut ekai, that's what they say. No, you're all both the same. So what I'm saying is, if you consciously voted for Gotabaya Rajapaksa, knowing what happened to Lasantha Wickrematunge, knowing what happened to Keith Noyer, knowing what happened during the MIG deal, knowing about the vast cases of corruption that were there during his time, are people still, 6.9 million people of us voted for Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Right? And that is a very bad, illiterate way of voting. where you think, oh, we gave it to these people, so might as well give it to the other person. You have to, like you mentioned before, you have to look at policy. You have to look at the team. You have to look at who is leading the team. You have to look at the track record of who is leading your team and then make a decision.
But there was the idea floated that among the candidates who were there at the time, Gotabaya Rajapaksa was the best candidate.
Again, in which sense? In which, it was beyond me how people that even I knew voted for Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Because they very well knew who he was and what sort of temperament that he had. That being said, there are certain things he did with Colombo that I give him credit for. There are certain actions that he took during the war that I respect him for. Respect is one thing, voting is another. Voting is exercising your franchise to elect the best people who will not only govern you, but who will govern the future of your children, who will put good policy framework to benefit your children, your grandchildren. But I'm sad to say that many Sri Lankans have a knee-jerk reaction when it comes to voting. You cannot have that. You need to be literate. If you look at the way it happens in the United States or any other country, if you see the intensity of presidential debates, even during the primaries, they are very
the
caucuses, they are very intense debates, and many people are thrown out by the people themselves. So it's always important to vote smart, and you can never ever say, oh, we are going to try it out, because what you're doing with your vote is playing around with the hopes and aspirations of millions of Sri Lankans who can't even afford a meal a day. And when I look at the business community that supported Gotabaya Rajapaksa, I'm not afraid to say this, because I have a very few donors who I take money from for my elections. I'm not under obligation to anyone really. The businessmen or certain businessmen of this country have to be held responsible for supporting the likes of Gotabaya Rajapaksa. I don't want to mention names, but Sri Lanka's top corporates landed us in this mess. And that's the scary part. The horrifying part is, if you get smart people who are doing good in their businesses, when they back a failed horse, then what hope does normal Sri Lankans have? So doesn't matter if you're a billionaire business leader, if you back the wrong horse and ruin the aspirations of millions of Sri Lankans, you need to take responsibility for that as well.
Of course, taking responsibility is not usually seen in Sri Lanka's political sphere, at least, but calls are for change in Sri Lanka, and change starts, of course, here at home. If we need to change the country, we first ourselves need to change, and like you quite rightly suggested, Rehan, we could start by changing the way we vote, the way we decide for who we vote, and of course, hopefully, vote for the right person at the upcoming election. Thank you very much, Rehan Jayawickreme, for joining us on our program this evening. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for tuning in to another episode of Face to Face. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.